today?
Doing great. How are you? How's everybody?
Fantastic. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I want to open up with, it is 2024, which it marks the 10-year anniversary of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Can you speak to your experience working on that film, and in particular being that it was, the second of your character's standalone movies, and, the MCU, it was really growing at that point?
Yeah, God, 10 years, making me feel old. Yeah, that was, it's my personal favorite Marvel movie that I was a part of. And it's not just, thank you, it's not just for the movie itself, but the experience, on the first film, I was so nervous. You know what you're stepping into, you know what Marvel is expecting out of it, and as a result, you're almost, you're playing defense. You're playing not to lose, kind of. And I think when Winter Soldier came around, we were all kind of playing to win. And it was the first film with the Russos, and there was a lot to prove and kind of make your mark, and we were taking more risks, and the character felt more fleshed out, and it was just, it was a really exciting time, and I think they nailed it. So for me, it was one of the more satisfying experiences I've had in my Marvel run.
And I want to expand on you working with the Russos, because you did work with them on Captain America, and then you went on to work with them again in The Gray Man. Can you share your experience working on that movie as well as working with them again?
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're really down-to-earth guys. They're really easy to talk to. They're cinephiles. They have an incredible knowledge of movies, and that lends itself to their directorial styles. When you're making a movie, when you try and have a little sidebar with the director on a shooting day, it's easy to get lost in a semantic fog. You can say, well, I think there's more tension, and you say, okay, well, that means something to me, that might mean something else to you. But they reference other films. They'll say, like, that one scene in so-and-so, how it, you're like, oh, I got it, there it is, thanks. They know how to communicate what they want. And I don't think they always get enough credit. Comic book movies in general, for whatever reason, don't always get the credit that I think they deserve. I think they're these big, giant movies, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but I think, the empirical evidence is in. They're not easy to make. If it was easier, there'd be a lot more good ones, and I think, I'm not throwing shade, I'm just saying that, look, I've been a part of a few that missed. It happens. Making a movie is tough. It's tough, and more cooks in the kitchen doesn't make it easier. So I think the Russo brothers have really done some great work. I don't want to highlight specific films in the Marvel catalog, but some of them are phenomenal, just really objectively, independently great movies, and I think they deserve a little more credit.
I want to expand on your comic movies, because obviously we're talking about Captain America, but there was another one that you starred in a few years ago, but it also came back recently. Anyone watch that Pilgrim Takes Off? Yeah! So I wanted to ask, can you tell us about what it was like stepping back into the role of Lucas Lee in this new retelling of Scott Pilgrim that, it differs a little from the original, because it actually gives a little bit more attention to the evil exes, and your story was expanded.
That's right, yeah. I absolutely love playing that role. I love Lucas Lee. I love those people. I love Edgar Wright. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had on a film. And it was, that was a long time ago too. That was, it was one of those movies that I didn't know how to feel about at first, the way it came to me. This was '09. This is before I was getting offers. I was still, you got to put on the gloves and get in the ring and fight for jobs at that stage in my career. And they said, Edgar Wright wants to meet with you for something, and I went and sat down with him, and he was like, well, I'm doing this thing, and it's a tough pitch. I wasn't quite following everything, but he was like, there are these evil exes, and it's kind of a smaller role, but he's this skateboarder, and he's also an actor, and he's terrible at it, and I think you'd be perfect. Okay. But we had such a good time making that movie. I grew up going to acting camp And I feel that everyone in that film would have been at acting camp with me. That's the vibe of the person on that set. We all got along in a very juvenile way, and it was really lovely and safe and wonderful, and I just had a blast doing it, so I couldn't wait to jump back into Lucas's shoes.
And that show came back in an animated format, and you also have been in some animated projects. How would you say, you know, how it came to you? Like, oh, it's now animated, you know?
Yeah, it's a different medium for sure. You don't have your other actors with you. You know, you're doing kind of repetition. It's this kind of precision shooting method. You're not kind of letting a flow take you, and it's line by line, and it's easy to feel silly. It's a very specific skill set. You know, the people that do that for a living, that are so dexterous with their voices, is really incredible to me, because you know, you give a line, you think it's good, then you hear it back, and you're like, oh, that was terrible. Let's go again. Please delete that. So it's a different muscle, but again, it was fun to be back in Lucas's shoes.
And you just kind of mentioned how, like, you know, when you're in the recording studio, you're by yourself, and like typically for voiceover, that is kind of how it works. And I'm assuming maybe that was also how it was on Scott Pilgrim, or like, was there ever an opportunity to maybe do like large group sessions, kind of, you know, come back together as the cast, because, you know, it did start as live action and you were able to come together on set?
Unfortunately, no. You know, I was later in the recording process, so there were times where they could play the other actors in my headset to hear what other people did, but no, unfortunately, we didn't get to have any face-to-face time.
But you did revive Conversations because, you know, it was said recently that Michael Cera unintentionally revived this email chain discussion that you had going on during the original movies. Can you talk about what it was like, you know, getting those conversations started again? Because, you know, it was like years had passed, and then this email just shows up like no time had passed at all.
Yeah, it's so nice. I don't think I'm the only one that feels such closeness to that project. Everyone in that movie has such a good time. We really all celebrate so similarly, and that email chain, I mean, if I sent out an email right now, within an hour, there'd be 8 responses. I mean, everyone is still so active on it, and a lot of those people are still really good friends today. I mean, Mike and I did a Broadway show a few years ago, and he's such a, you know, Michael is, he's like a genius. He really lives in his own world, does his own thing, and what he finds funny is enough for him. It's really special and unique. You know what I mean? It's like Kaufman-esque. If he's the only one in on the joke, he's cool with that. You know, I actually think he, you know, that's what he likes the most. But yeah, he did, for those of you who don't know, randomly responded to an email that had come in like 3 years earlier. It's like, Mike, he has a flip phone, you know what I mean? This is the kind of, yeah, no, he's special. I love him.
And you were able to actually have conversations in that group chat, like, as the filming process was happening, so that kind of maybe was like the getting back together with everybody?
Yeah, sure. I mean, they've actually done a few things together. I didn't even get to go to that premiere. I forget what I was doing. I'd actually been filming the first Captain America. There was something that happened that I didn't get to go to that. But yeah, I mean, this is, to this day, Edgar Wright will randomly, you know, put up a screening in LA at some small theater, and at least 5 or 6 cast members show up. So it's something that's dear to all of our hearts.
It's very exciting. I want to talk next about your movie, Knives Out. Yes, everybody. You know, it was a wonderful mystery, and every good mystery has that big reveal, and especially in the case of Knives Out. And so when you, as an actor, work on a mystery, and when it comes to your characters kind of involved in that storyline, do you like to know kind of the big reveal that's going to come down the line, or do you, as an actor, like to be surprised and kind of, you know, figure it out as you go?
Sure, no, yeah, you want to be surprised. Luckily, my agent didn't spoil the reveal for me when they gave me the pitch. That was the one that kept me guessing too. At the end of it, I was like, "Oh, it's me! Oh, great! Great!" Yeah, I was. I think we were filming Endgame when I was reading that. And I remember calling my team saying, please get this for me. Please let me just talk to Ryan. I know I can do this well. It's exactly the type of movie I love, so I was really happy about that one.
And kind of during the filming process, at what point would you say you filmed that scene? Because obviously, like, scenes kind of get filmed out of order. So would you say it was more like towards the front end or like more towards the back end that you filmed that
Which
scene? The scene where, you know, it is...
The reveal.
The reveal.
The reveal.
Yes.
Does anyone, I don't want to ruin it. Has everyone seen it? Yeah, I think...
I'm trying to be cautious of spoilers here, too.
No, I didn't. It was me. You mean like the puke in the face scene? I think the puke in the face scene was like the last. I think it was kind of around the last day of filming, for me at least. That was another one of those jobs that I'm kind of sporadic. I'm in and out. Sometimes those jobs are great, where you only have a couple weeks. Sometimes you really wish you could be around more. That's what it was on this film. But I think for me, that might have been my last day of filming. You want to go out on the puke, you know?
What a way to what a way to end. We've talked about you stepping back into the role of Lucas Lee and Captain America, and with such a large portfolio of work, are there any other stories or roles that you would be interested to see more of should the opportunities arise?
Wow. I mean, I'm a big fan of fantasy films. Like, I love Lord of the Rings. I love, you know, I don't know if I fit into them. I don't know if I'm considered for them, which is a shame. I can wear pointy ears. I can shoot a bow and arrow. I mean, I love those. I mean, honestly, they're like my favorite type of films. So I don't know. Those would be the ones that I would love to do. But those are also, you know, big giant movies, and I think they're also tough to do well. So, you know, a lot of different ingredients have to come together correctly. But for me, you know, anything that's fantasy based, I'm into. Labyrinth. Chloe, man.
You mentioned Lord of the Rings. I'm curious, were there any other like movies or TV shows like fantasy that you grew up on like really loving?
Getting excited about watching, well, I guess Shogun isn't exactly fantasy, but anything that has a really beautiful aesthetic, yeah, isn't it? I mean, I'm reading really encouraging reviews. Anything that has that kind of beautiful aesthetic, anything that's world building, you know, I'm into it.
And now, you know, we've talked a lot about your work as an actor and your work in film, and now I would kind of like to talk about your charity work. You worked with, you know, Christopher Sabin a few years ago, and you actually visited Seattle's Children's Hospital here. And as we are in Seattle now, again, can you speak to your experience working with that charity and kind of meeting those patients and being at that hospital?
Yeah, Christopher Sabin's is an organization where actually a kid I went to high school with, his mom runs it. It's not my charity. I didn't name it Christopher Sabin. It just happens to be the name. I always wonder if people think that I was that much of a... I didn't do that. This will be called Christopher's Haven. But it's a great place. They provide housing. You know, Mass General in Massachusetts, they have an incredible hospital. A lot of families from around the country are coming there to get treatment with their kids. And this organization provides free housing and just a sense of community. I mean, just even having to go through that is, I'm sure, traumatic enough, but the fact that they offer such a welcoming sense of home to these families and these kids is an incredible thing. So I've worked with them for a few years, and yeah, it was back, what was it, 2015, when the Patriots and the Seahawks? No, that's right, where am I? Hey, look, I thought you guys had it. It was kind of, what are you doing throwing the ball? I mean, just run it. But I had a bet with Pratt, you know, and it was, you know, whoever loses is going to show up at the other person's charity of choice and in full Marvel gear, and I won. So he came to Christopher Sabin's, but it wasn't like I wasn't going to do it as well. So I came out here, and Marvel was great with that too. They sent, you know, not just a full costume, but dressers. You need help getting into that thing. You know, that was my number one concern. How am I going to put this on by myself? But it was great. I mean, this is like the beauty of doing roles like that. You can walk into a children's hospital and make these kids' day. They might not know who I am, but they probably know who the character is, and that's really sweet.
actually would love to know a little bit more about how you got involved in specifically this charity. You mentioned you had a connection, and their mom, was the person in charge.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a position in my life where a lot of times there's people that you can shine lights on things, and so I think, what was it? God, another buddy of mine from high school. This was a long time ago. I was at some event with him in Boston because he was a aspiring filmmaker, and I ran into Joyce Duvall. She's the woman who runs the charity, and she kind of gave me a pitch on it, and it sounded amazing, and I went down there and saw it, and it's one thing to hear what they're doing and the families they help. It's another thing to meet the families, and I mean, it's not just the kids, it's the parents. It's parents that are just, I can't even imagine, and they're just so grateful, and you're just like, oh man, I gotta do as much as I can for this. So yeah, that must have been over 10 years ago at this point.
And, we spoke previously, and the last time we spoke, we talked about holidays and the seasons, and we talked about Christmas. And, speaking of Christmas, you have an upcoming movie, Red One, which is going to be released later this year. Yeah. How has it been, working on your first Christmas movie and, working with Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah, it was my Christmas movie. Waiting for this Christmas movie. I've been doing this for 20 years and no Christmas movie has come across. I mean, they're not that common. And even if they are, they're just not quite right. And you really only get one bite of that apple. You can make a dozen action movies, a dozen comedies. You can make one Christmas movie. You can't do more than one. And this one came along, and look, I love Jake Kasdan, and I really think he understands what a movie like that needs, you know what I mean? To try and break into the Christmas world is not easy. So we'll see. Look, that movie there were choices had to be made. You know what I mean? I had to say no to a couple of the things that have not come out yet. So we'll see if I make the right choice. But I feel supremely confident. I mean, it's a really fun script, and it's a really fun role. And Jake's so good, EJ's so good, everyone involved was just they really are just such a fun group of people to work with. They really love what they do, and every day really felt, I was gonna say every day felt like a holiday, and I couldn't even get it out. Every day was a pleasure.
So essentially, when you were filming that year, you got to experience 2 Christmases.
Yeah, that's right. And I thought I was going to be like Christmased out by the time we wrapped. Not at all. I was teed up. I was ravenous for just more Christmas. I didn't want it to end.
Now, I always love to kind of start wrapping up our conversations with talk of Dodger.
Yeah. Dodger. Dodger's my dog.
Well, can we get a little bit more love for Dodger? Yes. I had read that you mentioned in an interview that Dodger loves the cold winter and is a big fan of going for hikes during that time. What's Dodger like on a hike?
He's incredible. He's pretty good off leash. My last dog before Dodger was a sweet dog. Love him. But he was not well behaved. He wasn't good with other dogs. He didn't care what I had to say. You know what I mean? He just ignored me. I mean, I've always said I think he could have had his own apartment if he wanted to. We felt like roommates more than anything else. Dodger is actually, he's incredible. He's very obedient. He's very loving with all dogs. And oddly enough, he's worse on leash than when he's off. I'm sure some people know. Maybe they can help me fix that. I don't know why that happens. But when he's on leash, he gets nuts around other dogs. Off leash, he's a cupcake. So we do a lot of off leash stuff. And he loves the snow. He's from Savannah, which I think is so cute. Like when I try to picture what his voice would sound like with a little Savannah drawl, it's just too adorable for words. So yeah, snow for him is exciting, and then he loves it. And for years I was like, I actually feel like I told this story last time I was on this stage. I was always so nervous that his paws would get cold. So I would think, oh, I got to get these little doggy mittens. And anyone who puts their dog in clothing and the dog doesn't like it and they just free, like you put these mittens on him, and I could hold a flank steak 10 feet in front of his head and he'll just, he's not moving. So the mittens didn't work. But yeah, he's fine. I mean, he could be out there for hours and not get cold. So, I mean, he's built for it.
And it's not just the mittens too. I think, right, you mentioned like shirts, like any type of clothing. He just kind of freezes.
I've forced him into some of my old wardrobes at point. I mean, and he hates that too. But the pictures are cute. Come on.
I want to ask, because you mentioned, your previous dog in training. When you adopted Dodger was a little bit older, and so, kind of like, how was that? Like, when you adopted him, did he already kind of have some kind of training and?
Oh, no. I mean, older. He was 1. Well, I guess we don't know how old he was. He was a street dog, so we'll never know. But he was fully grown, and that wasn't. I mean, I love the puppy phase. Thinking about what Dodger looked like as a puppy, it breaks my heart that I'll never know. But I say that to say, I'll probably only adopt adult dogs moving forward, just because I think and that's not to disparage anyone that wants a puppy. Get a puppy, they're the best. But there's something really sweet about a dog that just may not have as good of a chance of getting adopted. And he was incredibly easy to train. I mean, he within 2 weeks, housebroken, learning commands. He's a smart guy.
And kind of going back to the hikes, would you say he's like a super explorer, like loves sniffing, loves checking things out?
He pees on everything. I'm like, how do you parse this out, man? Like,
was it like a stop every 50?
One drop. Mine. Everything. To the point that nothing's even. I mean, he's just lifting his leg. I'm like, you're empty. Knock it off. No one's impressed.
So with all those pit stops, like how long would you say you could be on a hike?
If Dodger could, we'd be on a hike all day. He just wants to be outside as long as he possibly can.
And I know that you've also spoken about Dodger getting a stocking full of goodies for the holidays. Was there a favorite item among the goodies?
Favorite item among the goodies? He's pretty spoiled, so I don't know if it registered to him that, oh, this is a day of many gifts, because every day is a day of many gifts. And around the holidays, the problem is you have family in, you have friends over. He becomes, I mean, I'm sure the people with children can attest to this. When new people are in the house, they sense that they can get away with more and just become the worst little versions of boundary testers that they possibly can be. So I don't know, Christmas was just, a good time for Dodger.
Would you say Dodger prefers goodies like treats or toys?
Probably toys. He wants attention, affection. He can only win his love so much with the treats. He wants to play, he wants to walk, he's active. He's like a little boy. He really has puppy energy, and he probably will for the rest of his life. So you want to win Dodger over, wrestle.
Do toys last?
No, that's his favorite thing in the world. Gutting a toy, oh my God. If you could just line up 50 toys and put one little slit down the back of each one so he can just empty all the stuffing out. That's Dodger's heaven.
And you find stuffing all over the house, probably.
Well, I stop it before it gets too worse. The second that one rip happens, I'm like, all right, we're done with this.
And I know the last time we spoke, we also did talk about, you doing work with shelters, and you have a partnership along with Dodger and Jinx. And I want to know, do you have plans to work with more animal shelters or more pet brands in the future?
Yeah, well, that was why the partnership with Jinx was a no-brainer. You get a lot of opportunities to partner with organizations, and the Jinx opportunity came my way, and you do some research about the product, and it's great dog food specifically for, their pitch is basically, it shouldn't only be the rich dogs that eat well, so it's a more affordable dog food that's still incredible. They do all these reports, and you read all this stuff and you say, all right, these guys are doing something really special and important, and the people involved were incredible. And ultimately, it was like, all right, well, your commitments, your obligations will be hanging out with dogs. And I was like, oh, no. Like, this is just fantastic. Great. I'm the one calling them, trying to be like, all right, so maybe we could do something where maybe I just show up at a shelter and, you know, you just get to hang out with puppies all day. So it's a perfect partnership for me, and I hope it lasts.
And do you get to take that food like with you when you go to shelters and kind of like
oh yeah
out with the older dogs and the puppies?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the best part, that you actually get to give this stuff away and make lives better for dogs.
Well, Chris, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining all of us here today. This conversation has been amazing. From Captain America to Scott Pilgrim to Dodger. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Seattle.
Hey guys, this is Aaron Nagel from AJ Films 28, and thank you so much for watching my videos. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and click on that subscribe button now. Have any comments? Let me know what you think, and I'll keep making more videos for you. Thanks again so much. Bye-bye.